Welcome to another episode of the Ambitious Legacy Podcast. I'm your host, Sabine the Purpose Lawyer. Thank you for listening and thank you for helping me be on purpose. Okay, so today, I'm talking about part 2 of trustees. So last time I broke down all of the categories of responsibilities that trustees have and who trustees are. And if you want a refresher on that, or if you didn't see that video, please go back to my last video and click on that before you watch this one. So this is kind of a continuation. And now we're talking about the consequences of not following the rules as a trustee. So I cannot tell you how many times I get calls from individuals who are questioning the intentions of a trustee, right? They may feel like the trustee is not doing the right thing, that maybe the trustee is not following the rules of the trust. They don't know what the trust says. They don't know what they're entitled to as beneficiaries, or maybe somebody speaking on behalf of a beneficiary, like, I think there's something wrong here. Like, I don't have any information. I don't know what's going on. And they're usually, really in a place of frustration because this trustee does not have court supervisory or supervision, right? They're just acting on their own, and the beneficiaries are concerned about what's going on with the trust. And so I typically tell them, listen, a trustee is supposed to be held to a trustee is held to a higher standard, right? They have a fiduciary duty, a responsibility to the beneficiaries to do the right thing. Now, does that mean everybody always follows all the rules that they're supposed to? Absolutely not. And not only that, sometimes people don't know the severity of breaching that duty, of not following their responsibilities as a trustee. They don't know all of the things that can actually happen to them, because a lot of times we choose family members as our trustees, and they may not be somebody who is fully versed or fully understands these responsibilities. So if you're a trustee or you know someone who's acting as a trustee, they should definitely at least sit down with an attorney, initially, sit down with a financial individual, sit down with an accountant initially, to know what their responsibilities are and to know how they should be managing these trust funds, right? Because it really is, they can get them into a lot of trouble if they're not doing things the right way. So number one, we're going to go through some of the consequences of what can happen to trustees if they do not follow the rules. So number one is lawsuits, right? So as a trustee, if you, what we call misappropriate, do the wrong things with the trust assets, you don't follow the trust directives on how you're supposed to distribute the trust assets, when you're supposed to distribute them, you can be sued by the beneficiaries or maybe a guardian of the beneficiaries, whoever is wronged or harmed in that process. You can be sued and you can be held personally responsible for doing the wrong thing. Now, this is an intentional wrong, right? Not if you were negligent or you did something by accident. I shouldn't use the word negligent, but say you did something by accident unknowingly, right? Typically, you're not going to be punished for that unless it's not reasonable that you didn't know, right? So if you did something unknowingly or innocently, or you did something in good faith, thinking that this was in the best interest of the beneficiaries, then you would then not be punished, essentially. However, you could be opened up to lawsuits if you don't do the right thing, if you misuse funds, if you mistransfer properties, which I've heard people do things like that. If you mismanage investments intentionally, those type of things can get you sued by the beneficiaries. And again, you could be personally responsible. So that's number one. Number two is you might be responsible to pay damages. So you might have to pay the loss that it cost that beneficiary from your mismanagement, your intentional mismanagement, your intentional wrongdoings. You may be required to, say you mismanaged trust funds or you mismanaged trust property, you may be required to pay that back, right? So that would be something that would be a lien for you, and something that you'd have to, might affect your own personal assets as a trustee or the trustee's personal assets, right? If they do the wrong thing as it relates to those trust assets. So then The third thing is that the trustee can be removed. To me, that's not really the most severe, right? Lawsuits and having to pay back money is way worse, but being removed, you could be removed as your position as a trustee. And typically this requires the beneficiaries, or if there's somebody who is like a trust protector who is supervising the trust, these individuals can have the trustee removed for doing the wrong thing. Sometimes it will require going to court. If you need to remove a trustee, sometimes you can do mediation. It depends on what the trust says, but there is a process to remove the beneficiaries. I'm sorry, there's a process to remove the trustee if they are not doing the right thing. And that doesn't have to be like fraud or anything like that. That could just be you're not keeping the beneficiaries informed, you are not doing your accounting, you are not making sure that the trust assets are being invested, you are not, any of the things that you're supposed to do as a trustee, and making sure the trust is productive and that it's growing. Those are responsibilities anyway. So if you're not doing those things, there's a chance that the beneficiaries might find out and say, hey, we need to have this person removed because they are mismanaging the trust. All right. So the next thing is loss of fees or compensation. So typically a trust will say that the beneficiaries, or at least it should say that the trustee gets paid for their duty as a trustee, or their job as a trustee. So if it does say that, then generally it's going to be some sort of a reasonable fee. It's typically whatever it is in the market at the time. The trustees will get paid for, walking out this job, because it's not an easy job, right? It's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of management and oversight. It's a lot of dealing with all different types of individuals to make sure it's like you're living someone else's life for them. You're managing all of their affairs for them, right? Even after their life is no longer, you're still stepping in and doing that. So as a trustee, it's a really big responsibility. So it's a good practice to have the trustees be paid. Now, if a trustee is doing something wrong, where they are all the things that I've already explained, then they can lose their fee or have to pay back their fee, or whatever the case is for managing the trust. So they could have done it all, for nothing and be at zero, right? So that was number 4. And so number 5 to me is the most severe, is having criminal penalties, right? So if a lot of times when you're mismanaging a trust, it's going to deal with things such as fraud, doctoring documents and doctoring things that were not done on the up and up above board. So it's illegal, right? So that usually includes fraud. That includes embezzlement sometimes if you're taking funds that don't belong to you. It could include larceny. Like there's a whole bunch of different criminal charges that can be triggered when it comes to mismanaging a trust. So you want to make sure, again, as a trustee, that everything is being done the way that it should be. Make sure that you understand your responsibilities. Make sure you understand the law, what you can and cannot do, especially when it comes to beneficiaries, because you may have certain relationships with some beneficiaries versus others. You may like certain beneficiaries versus others, but really you cannot, you cannot give preference to one beneficiary over another, right? Everyone has to be treated, I don't want to say equally, but they have to be treated according to what their interest is in the trust. Okay, so if this is for you, if you are a trustee and you're trying to find out, you need to look to your state laws. You need to speak to professionals to help guide you on what you're supposed to be doing. You don't have to have all the answers, just like the person who created the trust, probably didn't have all the answers, but they used individuals to help them, manage their assets, and that's perfectly fine for a trustee. And so you want to make sure you understand everything. Keep yourself out of trouble. If you know somebody who's a trustee that may not be doing the right things, maybe you want to advise them or share this information with them to get help to do things the right way, so they don't end up, messing up their own situation or worse with criminal charges. Okay. So I hope this was helpful for you. I hope it was clear and understandable. And now you have a good idea of what trustees do and what their responsibilities are in these streets. Okay. All right. So if you need help, if you want more information about this, please feel free to reach out to me. I am the founder of a law firm, the Ambitious Legacy Firm. And if we cannot help you with your questions or your concerns regarding estate planning, regarding administration and being a trustee, I'll be happy to tap you into my network of trusted individuals to help you along your way, no matter where you are. And I also wrote a book called You're Richer Than You Think, and it helps give guidance to individuals such as yourself if you want more information on what trusts are, wills are, all the different types of assets that go into estate planning, and how you might want to consider managing them. And also we talk a lot about legacy and how do you start to create a legacy for yourself? How do you start wrapping your head around it and really deciding like what it is that you want to see in your life, right? Because we want to live life on purpose. So thank you so much for listening. I will see you next time. Come back for another video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that good stuff, and share this videos with your friends so that you can be the influencer of your circle. All right. Bye. See you next time.